Rolling, reading yin. Alright, so maybe this is a New Year's resolution that I'll try and make more regular videos. So I wanted to take, originally what I was going to do is I was going to write a piece of composition myself in the three different dialects, or the ones most people would be most familiar with. So South Connemara, Donegal and Kerry, or Kerry Munster. I kind of combined Geisha in there a little bit, but I figured, well, it's Christmas time, or well, it's Stephen's Day or Boxing Day if you're so inclined, so why not take a classic. So I took an extract from A Christmas Carol, the bit where the first spirit appears. So I'll read the English to you first. Very beautiful prose. Why as I read this? Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me? Asked Scrooge. I am. The voice was soft and gentle, singularly low, as if instead of being so close beside him, it were at a distance. Who and what are you? Scrooge demanded. I am the ghost of Christmas past. Long past, inquired Scrooge, observant of its dwarfish nature. No, your past. Perhaps Scrooge could not have told anybody why, if anybody could have asked him, but he had a special desire to see the spirit in his cap, and begged him to be covered. What? Exclaimed the ghost. Would you so soon put out with worldly hands the light I give? Is it not enough that you are one of those whose passions made this cap and forced me through whole trains of years to wear it low upon my brow? Scrooge reverently disclaimed all intention to offend, or any knowledge of having wilfully bonneted the spirit at any period of his life. He then made bold to inquire what business brought him there. Your welfare, said the ghost. Scrooge expressed himself much obliged, but could not help thinking that a night of unbroken rest would have been more conducive to that end. The spirit must have heard him thinking, for it said immediately, Your reclamation then. Take heed. It put out its strong hand as it spoke, and clasped him gently by the arm. Rise and walk with me. It would have been in vain for Scrooge to plead that the weather and the hour were not adapted to pedestrian purposes, that bed was warm, and the thermometer a long way below freezing, that he was clad but lightly in the slippers, dressing gown, and nightcap, or his slippers, dressing gown, and nightcap, and that he had a cold upon him, which is, you know, that's nearly like Irish. He had a cold upon him. So perhaps Victorian English was more similar to Irish than we imagine. At that time, the grasp, though gentle as a woman's hand, was not to be resisted. He rose, but finding that the spirit made towards the window, clasped its robe in supplication. I won't be getting any jobs as an audiobook narrator, I don't think. I am a mortal, Scrooge remonstrated, and liable to fail. Alright, so what I did is I translated that into Irish. Now, it's not perfect, and I made some choices that aren't suitable to the prose, and I'd say a better translator would say that's not exactly following the meaning or the artistic intent of the passage, but this is not to do that. This is to show phonetic differences and pronunciation differences. So some of the words will be the same, but also some vocabulary choices that will be very specific to each dialect. I've consulted quite a bit. If you go to Changan, I'll say most people who watch this channel will know that there's a little place where you can, or a little tab where you can click to hear the three main kanji. Now, I find that some of the pronunciations that I have are similar to Khmer. A huge amount of them are similar to Donegal, and actually that's more true of a lot of Connacht, the old Connacht dialects. Clare Galway, the dialect around Acre and Galway would be an unusual one because it kind of shares a lot of similarities with Munster. Like, for instance, they wouldn't say like they do in Connemara. They're kind of more like om. It's almost like like it is in Munster. And again, in a shear, it's somewhat similar to that. Anyway, start with Munster first. An village an spirit, so I are a gonna osel a ogriach de hachtum Scrooge. It's mea ha own. De vi an blod bug go shave. Ishel gulor or no scriv she a gian amat a gongar. Ne he agus cade tassa a diafrig Scrooge. Is me taibshin an a cate. Cate le fada a diafrig a dear Scrooge, no, dear Niel fan. I say fechend so there's maybe two ways you could say that. Eirde, and I think in Ring they might say Eirde, I'm not sure. If there's anybody from Ring watching, please tell me. Airde, Eirde. I'm going to put these up in the comment boxes. Niha, Donalagi Kate, Estocha na Faithfach. So, not Bedach, as it would be the standard or an Connemara, but na Faithfach. And I researched to make sure that that is what they say in Munster, because the only thing I could find was a story from Kerry, where a guy was talking about Gata Trali or something, and he says na Faithfach Galistach had Gata Trali. There's a tendency in the Amshire Oshnach and the Mo Cunilach to pronounce the F at the start of those suffixes, like Diad Fin, Diad Fa. That doesn't happen in Connacht or Ulster. It's pronounced like a kind of H sound, or almost like the F is shadowed. Is toch na fefod Scrooge ra cadna hev da ved fi an kestachar ed. Ach hastig oig an spirit a eskint a cahav a chapin, so feskint instead of fekal, agus dimpig a vet flodaha. Sometimes you'll see past tense in written Irish, certainly from Munster writers. I remember Michael O'Rourke having a short story where I originally thought it was might have been a mistake, but I think quite often in written Irish the pronoun is left out. I certainly do it a lot. I've never been told that it's necessarily a wrong thing to do, but anyway. Cad ysgrad an taifse, an noch fach o losan le lava sealta, so ni seal but sealta, an solas a hugumsha, nach maha gohan govillir, so govillir na school too, chiawn dos no dine. So all those prepositions, da, egg, le, I think still is lesh, but da, egg, chig, I think, ed, ers no dine, you put this little S sound when the object is, the object of the sentence, the object is pluralized. So, dos no dine, dundana, but dos no dine. And that's de, actually, dos no dine. Chawn dos no dine, sood or shood, I wasn't sure there, I think it should be shood. But I got them both in. Got a buint ege, so buint ege le diamag an chapin so. Agus chur eichel arm le himach na blianta chuna chahab gehischel ar mavahish. Da heen edit Scrooge go harmach got a ein internege masla a chahab ar an spirit dein gno. Agus dorche na rab ein isige go charsha an chapin son ar chiawn an ein trada heil. An son the yenshe, instead of rinshe, the yenshe iracht la kumov chorashte. Chorashte is courage. I got that from the glossary. Mishnah would be the word I typically use there, but chorashte seemingly is what they use in large parts of Munster. Anybody from Munster can confirm that. Kesh Edens between the no a hug and sunna. The chimerke, so your welfare or benefit, and in JC's Irish, Cymru, apparently, according to the glossary, isn't it? The chimerke or the Cymru are some taifse. The chur Scrooge and all gribsha harva boyach ach niedachsha ach of exminach gumach ihe bra halotte niedar den hasporshin. Is kusul garhola and spirit chud smuiti, mar dorcha lahach, dachar mar son, cogar. So if someone's trying to call you over or gain your attention in Munster Irish, they'll typically say cogger. The hinshe a love larger amach se mankanta agus drogshe grain instead of green or drem. The drogshe grain vog ar a love. Edig agus shulamisht. The vachshe an ashka the Scrooge chun a eg impi gorav an amshir agus an oer mi a ronach the inchinley cushihe. Gorav labe he should have been put in there. Labe he agus. Now this is where I kind of wasn't sure. So the original spelling of Liabui, as I would understand, is Leabaid Shevia. So in Donegal and in North Connacht, it's E gets it, and like Cornwall, Liabui. And you find out a lot of the Caidan spellings that there's E's and U's put in Donegal and North Connacht Irish that you don't get in the other dialects. Now, typically it should be Liabig, and I think it should be Liabig he, and I might amend that when I put it into, I'll put these into the comment box. But yeah, I think it's Liabig he, but I can't say that I've heard Munster people saying Liabig, but I presume that's what it is. Agus go raibh an teas féidir fada go leor féin rófuinte. Ná raibh ágatha bheige ach slipéir, gona ihe agus capín ihe, agus go raibh sláidáin éid. De bhí an gráin, cé go raibh si cho séimh ná lámh bhaná gan stopó. Déirigh se. Ach raibh gáilt, so I don't know, I just threw that in there. I don't think that's the correct use of it, but gáilt and give to get or to obtain DH apostrophe FH for the ILT. A gáilt go raibh an spirid ag díru agus na fanyoga. The rug sé groin an bhaling, or bhaling. I don't think the emphasis is on the second. So it's someone put a comment. I presume this guy used to the Cork Irish blog. That the emphasis only comes on the end of certain vowel sounds. So vowing, according to Changlin, is how the emphasis on the stress is in the first syllable. So vowing, mar chóra dlacha. Is dunna déna me a dátig scrúd agus ha an bhil ann go ditfin. Ha an bhil ann go ditfin. You'll hear sail instead of seal, bhil instead of bhil. Trying to think. So there's kind of there's a lot more. How would I say it? There's a lot more syllables, I suppose, in Munster Irish to my ears. Like, kind of bounces around a lot more. It's more discreet in Western and Northern dialects. Alright, thank you. Donegal, as I say, these aren't perfect, and if you see something that's wrong, or you think, no, I shouldn't be pronounced like that, or that's not the word we'd use, please do put in the comments and I'll try and pin you. I pinned the one from the Cork Irish guy, just with some of the errata in it. So this is Tíochan and Donegal. And two and spirit a gannúsel grow a heart fogridu a diri scrooge. As me, vian gu, so gu instead of lower in this instance, but I think they said lower as well. I have not seen a regional distinction between guff, as I'd say G-U-T-H, or guh, or gu, as it is in Donegal, and lower. But they seem to be everywhere, as far as I can see, anyway. The gu bog a shave ishal gadior or no skur sha wadway and nativa and a hudjart. So a gudjacht is more common to say that instead of inanzi or an akelash or an yanklash. So they'd say a gudjacht, and someone we use in North Mayo as well. I find a lot of Donegal Irish is very, very similar in terms of like vocabulary choice, maybe not so much pronunciation. Ke he agus gudje tasa a dithri scrooge. So gudje. As misha taushin and nolak katya, taushin instead of taushin, which is how we'd say it in North Mayo. Katya la fada or scrooge ig awerk or a gunk or a ardja ishal, so ardja. So it was down south, it was earda. In Donegal it's ardja, which is the way we say it. And you'll hear kind of do the Connemara, ordja is how it's saying Connemara. Hanel, so instead of niel, or you could say niel. I put in hanel just to be awkward, hanel. But niel, I think, is more common from Donegal speakers, but hanel is another form which is very common in. I think they do use it hanelshin cart, but I can't tell you where in Donegal it is. If Kieran Dunbar sees this video, he'll be able to say. But definitely was used in northern dialects, hanel. But niel is actually more common in Donegal. I just put it to be awkward, just to use the ha sound. Istocha na chukula scrooge, so istocha not vedach would be the standard. Istocha not chukula, so that version of higlat or tad. So anshe the gunye, so you'll hear that n after the letter I gets a ny sound. Anyam, gyddi the anyam, gyddi an cian danyashan, right? Danyan Turkmershan. You hear that in Rossport Irish, where they have the arc wheel like they do in Donegal. So, Kyotamanya, Hogmamanya, which there's a video of a speaker from Rossport back when the Shell pipeline protests were happening, and the guard is trying to ask her, Hogmamanyam, which? Hogmamanyam, Anyam. So, that's not true throughout the rest of our areas, like Cartaig, even Anyam, I hear, but Anyam, definitely Rossport thing, and definitely Donegal thing, and I think from the recordings I've heard of Sligo Irish, it was common throughout that area as well. Few Dajigula Katia is why Katia is like a version of Katia. Dajigula done in chart instead of Egan or a Kinch and Shash the Korea, of Shayeri is for the cats. Quite often you see T's, or what historically would have been D added onto the end of some of the verbs, those verbal nouns. And the Kapin Augustin Pashay A of a Pludia. Kaji, Scarch is to call or to shout in Donegal. Car Scarcher, could be called. And Tosha Muha Holoshan Lawa Sealta and Solasa Hugumsha. Would you put out so quickly with hands, with worldly hands, the light I give? Now, you could have tested on this Nadini. I've heard that thus, like it is down in Munster, as I mentioned, for plural nouns, like preposition before plural noun. In Donegal, I was listening to the radio the other day, and someone said Arsnadini, Arsna, and Dusna. So it is a feature of it. It's not anywhere in Connacht, as far as I'm aware. But again, open to correction. It could be in Inishira, I'm not sure. Ahoy and Chapin Sha'aram la Dirarti. That CH in the middle of words is often pronounced like an R, so Shart, North. Irati, I think, is how they probably say it in Donegal. Irart instead of Iracht or Irat. So Irart. Ahoy Ilart. Aram achahu it ishim achlaid Eden and Usnamienta. Hence Kruj Kaharama Kurosha Yeri in Waslu. So again, Masla now in standard spelling is M-A-S-L-A, but probably historically be spelled M-A-S-L-A-D-H, because Maslu, a lot of those that end on a schwa sound, actually they get like an oo sound, and that's the reason. Achahu Aspirit na Guru and Eniola Sige Garhoisha and Capichin or Flaggin, much more common than can in Donegal, Nain Trada Heel, and Shin Runsha, very common in North Mayo Irish and in Donegal Irish, to cut off the E at the end of Runye. Runch Gaveshna and Cashed Achad Ayasparit Giti and Gru Viegalash. The Yas or Satausha, so Yas for benefit or welfare is more common in Connacht and Ulster and Cumashka, I think. Well, I certainly wouldn't really use Cumashka, I would use Yas more so. Dort Scrooge Grusha Harva Buya, Ahnihukullash or Hadjakulash. Of a smuitu gomau ihe vre chalatini sarg construction. Yoga, which means indeed or of course. Kahikar wahi, so muhi instead of chola. So wahi literally means to feel the sound, which is what we use in Cartaig. And tausha gedivisha smuitu, so instead of smuinu or smuinov, it's smuitu. Mardursha, there's a song from Tory Island, Bima smuitu at Nebradan, isn't it? Or can't remember. Naskudan, Bimshis Muitur Naskudan. Dahar Marshan, gotcha. So if you want to gain someone's attention doing Irish, you should say gotcha, which is literally go on show. It comes out as gotcha. It's a traditional Irish band called Gotcha. Toyaya. And there was a newspaper which had a very brief life, unfortunately, called Gotcha. Hinsha Mahawab Wajid exact kanchik striksha giren mean mwanwa allow. Gidem is the way I pronounce it. So again, a lot of those vowel sounds in the middle words, very similar to North Mayo. Groim down south. Green, you'll hear is in Connemara has. 80 anis a shulumaj. So instead of shulumash, the I don't know what you shulumaj. I pretty sure I said that, but again, someone can correct me. Thou anashki the Scrooge, betcha, voucha or betcha. After conditional and amshigrochachi, the DH sounds, if you have a pronoun that begins at S, so she, shin, shiv, shiat, it gets a ch sound. So it almost becomes like a synthetic verb. So vetcha, vetchi, vetchiad, vetchiv. In North Mayo we use one that's actually more similar to Scots Gaelic. We use shin, which is they don't say much really in Scots Gaelic as far as I'm aware. Again, open to correction. But it'd be more common for people to say like we would be vetchin. We would put churichin. Much more common in North Mayo than churumich, as we pronounce it. Or, it's much more common. And unfortunately it's dying out. And when I was doing my higher diploma in Galway, I got corrected as Michart. That's not acceptable, which really annoyed me. But then we had another lecturer says, well, I don't see why it shouldn't be acceptable. It's the correct pronoun. It's the correct, it's a futum Scotty. So there's a accent in sin not Gur a yabi tetoli or gur a yabi he holy again. Oh, sorry, I misheard. That chen ashki the screech when a vet in pigro and amshi agus an ui. Now ur in North Connacht and in Donegal can mean both weather and time. And in fact the word amshir means both weather and time. You know this, amshir chachi is past tense, amshir lot is present tense, amshir lot is future tense, and amshir is also weather. You hear it in Hiberno English all the time. I always ask my students in secondary school, and I have a very diverse class group, so not everybody's parents are going to, or extended family are going to be Irish, so it doesn't always work. But I'll ask them, like, do you ever hear older people say, like, how are you this weather? And that's where that comes from. It doesn't mean weather, literally means the time. And me orstjana instead of me erunach or me erunach. Directly kashia gro yabi he holy ige gro and tasfid a wad fi one rofancha harosha instead of me rosha harosha kala slippe guna ihe agus kapinihe agus gro slidane eganomsha a instead of ed a via an irem kegroshi homin la labure ganstad Jirisha a Nirwashana grown tausha girig na fanyaka roksha girem a roba la hachani a stunna dinama a dachi scrooge agus hakulam chatum. Alright, not perfect pronunciation, is a little bit all over the place there. It's kind of losing it. It's kind of like when I tried to do a Cockney accent or something for too long, eventually people forget that speaking language is not just an intellectual exercise, it's a physical thing as well. And if the muscles in your mouth are more used to making certain shapes, consonant shapes or vowel shapes, it's going to be much more difficult, which is why, I think someone who's a native Japanese speaker, they always struggle with R's and L's because their tongue isn't, and their mouth isn't used to making those kind of shapes or sounds. So forgive me, I'm not Nilensi on Locht. So Connemara, so this should be slightly easier to pronounce. But it kind of, it made an impression on me how different Connemara pronunciation is to the Irish I learned in North Mayo. Like, it's so different in some aspects. Very similar in a lot of ways. Certainly the tempo and the kind of the rhythm is, people like when I'm speaking Irish, like, oh, you're from Connemara, but there's like definitely vowel sounds very, very different, and much more similar to Donegal in North Mayo in a lot of cases. But anyway, here we go. An toen spurre de genoesel gra a hiocht fogredom, so niet chacht, but hiocht chacht it was in Donegal. A dietry screwed, so schwa sound with that IGH, ni dietry as it is in Donegal, or dietrig was it, as I said it down south. I don't know if that's entirely correct. Sometimes you don't pronounce that IGH in the end word, certain words. So it might be a schwa sound down in Munster as well, actually, I'm not sure. It's me. Be an glór bog go séb, so glór or go be either Isha glór nos grosha wad y and waya. So y is how I pronounce it, waya, schwa sound again. Not be in English. You wouldn't say in Yamachlesh, you'd say in English in Connemara. Kehe gus kirbetas is instead of kade or kade, it's cared a dira Scrooge. Is misha typhon and lokate. I am the ghost of Christmas past. Catchla father or Scrooge, a brahno era orte ishal. Orte is the pronunciation I got on Tangan. I've heard people in Connemara saying Irja, like they do in Munster. I'm not sure, but probably is whatever they have in town is probably the more common one, I presume, for Connemara. Orte is how we'd said North Mayo, and it's the same as Donegal. But Orte isho. Ní ha donology. Or donology. Istohi. So it's much more common here. Istohi. Dio fada ICHI fada, or sometimes it's just a version of Istoi, Dio fada IGH, instead of Istocha or Istoche, it is in Donegal, and it is in Carthay sometimes. Na vedoch screwed insucht instead of inshin, the gunna, and you get that in a lot of those words that end in, they become ucht. The gunna be Cain Tudor or Cain Fall, I just put in Cain Tudor because it's another variation. In Donegal they say Cain Thalber, which is how we say in North Mayo as well. So author or subject, doesn't matter which. Few da vetin cheist a chur eid, a fi sé gira an spirit a eithal na chapi, agus dímpa sé eid a bheith tódia. Céirt a screid an taimhse, a mócha cholóisian lá láva síalta an solasa a thugamse. Nach leora gra tusa duna go na daine. Go instead of do. Go is always in there. That's true for all of Connacht. Go instead of do or de. Go na daine. Not the rest of it, Connacht is Dini. In South Connemara, historically it's Daine, Dainla, like it is in Munster. But I hear a lot of younger speakers now saying Dini, and I presume that's a learned thing. It's harder to say Daine than it is to say Dini. A chud an capin seo orm le díreachtaí. It's a chud éalach orm a chahab. Éalach instead of íachal. Ísio na bhlaise, nuas na mlianta. Hain scrúd go choramach, gros a gira ein wasla a chahab a spirit. No a chaha instead of cahu, as it is in Donegal and North Connacht, and cahav as it is down south. Caha, schwa sound, same as Gina, schwa sound instead of Gina or Gianu. An spirit no gra einiola sige go choshan capinchen a chleigen or kyan. So chleigen and kyan are both used, like chleigen head out in Connemara, but kyan doesn't matter which one you use. Nein tra da heel. And shin runja she go vishnach, de vishnach go vishnach. When kecht a chod a spirit keen grow be egelash grow gn ofada instead of gno. The last so type she same as Donegal. Dort screws grosh a harva buich ach nietach she. So sometimes it's niedachse and sometimes it's niedche. I've heard a mixture of those pronunciations, the ch sound or a ch sound before she, shiv and shiad. Well, they don't say shiad, they say niedjish. They use the fuidem hachi in that instance. They don't use the fuidem hachi for first and second person. So vechma and vechtu is much more common than bein agus veha in speakers I've heard on RNG and the people I know from Connemara. Much more common to say vechtu and vechma. I don't know why. Níadach se a go bheith smuoine gomach ihe bhrá chalata níos ár don spruachse. Go divan, chail goid éire an tauise. Éire déirime is very common from Achleim down, and I've heard it in Munster Irish. There's an interview, there's a documentary about on Wiki O'Sullivan from Cooley, and one of the people in the documentary says, "That's Kjol even on some of the I heard beautiful music there, and I didn't realise they said it in Munster, but they must do, or they certainly do in Cork. I lived a good bit of my time in Ballyvorney because I was working on that big road that they put through for the main road to go out to Killarney. I worked on that for a while, and I was staying in the Mills a good while. And Cork Irish is quite unusual in a lot of its phonetics. I didn't really cover it in the previous video, but the afad is more similar to kind of Donegal Irish. The hannig stach, the hannig stach, and so ta doine, like it's kind of broad. I don't know, is there a historical link with the fact that so many people from Donegal ended up down there after the Breffni Barna or Breffni Beara march or whatever it is. You have loads of people with the surname Sweeney around there, or Max Sweeney typically, and that's a very Donegal name. So I don't know if there's a link there. Now there is evidence in County Clare that they'd say Hannick instead of Honnick. There's an interview with Stefana Hillary, or sorry, one of the recordings of Stefana Hillary, Stephen Hillary from Doolin, it was a famous Shanachie, and he says Hannick instead of Honick. So I don't know. I think, and certainly in Claregalway they say Hannick. The few people who speak it, they don't say Honick as it is in Connemara House or in Codmullen, and obviously North Mayo and Donegal always say Hannick as well. So I don't know. It's a bit inconsistent. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting a bit lost there. Yeah, so good even good air and tausha, and Darima literally means I felt the sound. So in Irish you feel music. So it's Wichima up north and in Cartaig, Wichima Kyoll I heard music, or Wichima Scale I heard a story, I felt a story. From Acclaim down south to Connemara House, it's Darima. I've never heard anyone in Connemara say Wichima for like I heard something. Yeah, certainly for felt something sometimes. Dachel Murshin, Golia Torera. Golia is what we say in Connemara and Connacht for community. This is coming back now, so I'm going to wrap up. He Shamach a law of Lloyd, that kind of green mean law, Vín Walnut should be our law. Iris go Shulamush or Shulmush. Dacha an Ashton Scrooge, who never a gimpy gra a name shit of some me Elomach instead of me Orsnach me Elomach. The other thing I should go a Yabba he hold holy, gra and chance fader wad we won the raw feet, nach Russia Kaha ach slippage gona eche agus capping eche as gra slide on Eric Namsha. Pian dream. Kikro si chomín le lábra ganstapa tírise ach na bhór amach gran taobhse tíri ag na fúine go sé grim ar an róba le hachní. Is duna díana me a dáte scrúd agus tí an tiite.